You've talked it out, you've journaled it out, maybe you've even medicated it out, but the anxiety still lingers. What if the real problem isn't only in your mind, but also in your body? Welcome to Healing Beyond the Symptoms, the podcast that helps people discover the root causes of their health struggles and take back control with science, strategy, and self-awareness. I'm Dr. Leah Hahn, a chiropractor and functional wellness doctor who believes that true healing starts beneath the surface. So let's dive in. Most women are taught to see anxiety as a thought problem. Racing thoughts, worry loops, mental overdrive. That's why so much of conventional help focuses on the brain. Talk therapy, medication, mindset work. And those tools are really valuable, but for many people, they're incomplete. Anxiety isn't just mental, it's also physiological. It's wired into how your body holds stress. We first need to look at nervous system dysregulation. Your body could be in fight or flight mode, which keeps your body on high alert, even when there's no real danger. And there's very physical symptoms related to this. It could look like shallow breathing. It could look like a pounding heart or a tight chest. This can be related to thought processes about your current life circumstances, maybe feelings of overwhelm or fear. Or maybe it's related to a chronically high stress level. It's maybe related to career choices or family situations, financial situations, or even long-term caregiving. Realize that it can also be from trauma. Trauma that maybe happened 6 months ago or 20 years ago. But the patterning the body took on to cope with the trauma has never been cleared or reorganized. So the body reacts and responds to the world as if the trauma is still happening. It's still current in the way the body and the mind is reacting and responding to the world. Remember, you're not broken. You have been patterned, and patterns can change. Nervous system dysregulation happens when your nervous system just remains in this state. It's keeping the overwhelm and the fear and the anxiety current. The trauma physiology alive in your system, instead of being able to move from fight or flight into the opposite side of the autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic, the rest, digest, and heal mode. The goal that I would have for you is adaptability, that you can use fight or flight when you need it, and then quickly move to rest, digest, and heal. Your body then can navigate that process of moving back and forth from sympathetic to parasympathetic with ease. But if you have years of unprocessed stress that lives in your posture, in your muscle tone, and your breath patterns, it can be devastating. I've been doing this work for 20 years, and a common question I receive is, how does stress live in my system? The most simple answer would be to say that the body stays braced and your brain interprets that as anxiety. Let's dig a little bit deeper into that. Candace Pert, the neuroscientist who wrote the book, The Molecules of Emotion, which will be linked in the show notes, she demonstrated that emotions are not just in the mind. They are biochemical events that are happening within the body. She discovered that neuropeptides, which are really a fancy way of saying they're the body's chemical messengers of emotion, are found not only in the brain, but throughout the body, especially in the spinal cord, the organs, and the immune system. She talked about how the spinal cord is an emotional highway. Her research demonstrated that neuropeptides and the receptors are highly concentrated along the spine and nervous system tissue. This means that the spine doesn't just transmit physical signals, but also emotional information. The body then becomes a storage site. Because these molecules bind to receptors in the muscle and the fascia and the organs, unprocessed emotional experiences can leave a, quote, biochemical residue in the body. This helps explain why people may feel like emotions are locked within their back or their neck or their hips, the physical structures of the spine and the nervous system. We can release this through movement and through awareness. Candace Pert also showed that when we release emotions through gentle awareness or body work, movement, or therapy, these chemical patterns shift and energy that was bound up in stress and trauma can be freed. The other thing her work really demonstrated was how important the mind-body connection actually is. Her work was groundbreaking in bridging the gap between neuroscience and somatic wisdom. Pert's work affirmed that the spine and the body as a whole isn't just a carrier of the mind's commands, but a living part of emotional memory and healing. I just went through a lot there, so let me paraphrase that in a little bit more friendly way. Our emotions don't just live in our minds, they live in our bodies too. So Candace Pert's work discovered that the chemicals of emotion are found all throughout the body, especially in the nervous system and the spine. And it means when we go through something stressful or overwhelming, the experience can get held in the muscles and the tissues around the spine. This is why people feel tension or pain or heaviness in their back or neck during stressful times. The good news is that the body can also release these stored emotions through gentle movement, through breath work, through body work, or even just becoming aware of what we're thinking about. The spine becomes not just our support structure, but also our doorway to healing. And there's a third area in which the body plays a role with anxiety, and that's our hormones and our energy balance. When we go into fight or flight, we produce adrenaline and cortisol. Adrenaline's typically burned out very quickly or burned off very quickly. But when we move into chronic stress and overwhelm or fear, or we have unresolved trauma, cortisol stays stuck on. It disrupts our sleep, it disrupts our mood and our sense of well-being. Your body literally isn't shifting or downshifting into rest and digest. Let's get a little bit more specific on how stress hormones affect your hormonal balance. So realize that cortisol, estrogen, and progesterone all share the same precursor hormone, which is pregnenolone. Under chronic stress, the body utilizes or prioritizes cortisol production for survival. This leaves less pregnenolone available to actually make the progesterone, and over time, estrogen balance is disrupted. When you have high cortisol, it suppresses progesterone production directly, and this means that you could have irregular periods, PMS, fertility challenges, or even feel estrogen dominant. I've been estrogen dominant before in my life, and it's kind of a miserable feeling. It makes the feelings of PMS so much more intense. It can make your cycles more intense. So it's a really important thing to look at in how stress is so connected to this. We also can have altered estrogen balance. Excess cortisol affects the enzymes in the liver that actually metabolize the estrogen, which can lead to too much estrogen circulating within your system, or your body's not clearing it effectively. Stress can therefore contribute to high estrogen activity compared to progesterone, and that causes a major imbalance within your sex hormones. You can also have receptor sensitivity. This means that chronic stress also changes how estrogen and progesterone are absorbed within the body. So even normal hormonal levels can't have the full effect that they should, meaning your body isn't utilizing its hormones like it should. High cortisol will also dampen the hypothalamus, which is a part of the brain that actually helps to regulate the ovaries. This can reduce our ovulation, so we're not ovulating like we should. It also can lower progesterone, and it can make our estrogen patterns a lot more erratic and more disruptive to our lives. So the biggest thing that I want you to take away from that is that when we have high stress and we have excess cortisol within our system, it lowers progesterone first, it disrupts estrogen metabolism second, and then the balance between the two is really affected. That imbalance increases the symptoms of PMS and perimenopause. That can result in a dysregulated mood, shallow sleep, brain fog, waking in the middle of the night with feelings of anxiety, being unable to go back to sleep, feeling depressed, anxious, increased cramping, heavy periods, and infertility. Realize that it's all connected. And many of the ways that we're taught to cope with this, especially as women, are maybe drinking a glass of wine or having extra chocolate. But these things actually disrupt our liver function even more, which makes the hormonal balance a bigger problem. Those coping mechanisms in the long run make symptoms more intense, when really what our body needs is rest, gentleness, nervous system regulation, and reorganization. So, the coping mechanisms that we're often taught to deal with, life and PMS and perimenopause symptoms, in the long run, those types of coping mechanisms make those symptoms so much more intense. When really what our body needs is rest, gentleness, nervous system regulation, and reorganization so our body can move into healing and reclaim our vitality. We've really focused today on how stress hormones affect women and how anxiety isn't just in your head and how it's really affecting your body. But I was really specific to women dealing with this issue. I really want to make sure that we address men's issue as well. So for men, realize that this is what the women in your life may be going through. But for men, I will also be devoting a special episode specifically on how this issue is affecting testosterone and your hormone levels as well. Why do mind-only approaches sometimes hit a wall? So many patients tell me I've done therapy and helps my thoughts, but my body still feels wired, or maybe it feels wired and tired. That's because the body holds memory and tension patterns and things that words can't always reach. Without including the body, the cycle of anxiety often continues. And what does that look like? Somatic therapies and gentle movement like walking and yoga, and nervous system-based chiropractic, my favorite is network spinal, but network spinal literally produces waves of healing in which you can see breath and gentle movement help the spine release stored tension and emotions. Eventually, this moves into reorganization, in which the body builds fuel for healing and change. And when the body is safe enough for it, it can transform. We want you to have a more complete path to actually healing anxiety. And the first thing I want you to do is really think about listening to your body's signals. Notice tightness in your jaw or your chest or your shoulders. Where do you store tension? Is it in your low back or your hips or your mid back? And I want you to acknowledge that this is my nervous system protecting me. Notice emotions that go with that tension. Can you match the emotional state to the physical state that you're experiencing? Can you acknowledge how you feel? Can you state aloud what you feel? Can you journal about it? This is a beautiful activity for nervous system regulation. And a key to being able to heal is to actually listen to how you feel, accept how you feel, and acknowledge it. And then you can use somatic exercises to actually soothe the nervous system. If you're in a highly stressed state, can you shake your limbs? Shake your arms or your legs. Think of a dog shaking after a stressful encounter. This type of shaking in our limbs can actually help to reset the nervous system. So maybe you set a timer on your phone for 2 minutes and you shake your limbs. You can go into a private room. No one has to watch you, but it can help to reset the nervous system. Gentle practices like belly breathing, humming, or hands on the heart can shift your body's state. Can we reframe anxiety as a body pattern, not a flaw? This takes away the shame and opens up compassion. Your body is trying to keep you safe. Your body is communicating that it may be stuck, but it can move into a healthier state, especially if you listen to it. I'd love it if you'd consider making a joy list. I'd like you to create a list of 10 to 20 things that would bring you joy. They can be simple things, like drinking a cup of coffee in the sunshine. It could be a 20-minute hike through the woods or a park. Those are some of my 2 top favorites, but how can those activities be woven into your day or week? Years ago, I read the book The Artist's Way, in which artist dates and journaling were used consistently to tap into creativity. It worked beautifully for me, and those creative outlets have become nervous system resets for me every single week. I used to think that I didn't have much time for this, but it was such a passion of mine and it brings so much joy that time has become essential. I might spend an hour, I might spend an afternoon painting, but it creates so much joy and it reframes my nervous system for the entire week. And then explore nervous system focused care. Network Spinal helps your nervous system reorganize tension so that your body no longer defaults to anxiety as its baseline. I've said it before, but remember that 80% of the information that's communicated in the nervous system is from the body to the brain. So we need to watch and work through our thought patterns because negative thought patterns definitely dysregulate our nervous system. But we also need to address the state of the body. When we reorganize the nervous system and create healthier patterns and increased adaptability, we're also creating the ability to access calm. And because that 80% of information traveling through the nervous system is from the body to the brain, calm body equals a calm mind. We talked about a lot of different topics in today's episode. But first, anxiety. Anxiety isn't just in your head, it's also in your nervous system. The mind-body connection. Healing requires addressing both thoughts and body patterns. And safety. When the body feels safe, the mind can finally rest. Thanks for joining me today on Healing Beyond the Symptoms. If you've been telling yourself, why can't I just think my way out of this anxiety? Remember, it's not about willpower. Your body is part of the picture and it's ready to be part of your healing. To learn more, download my free guide at Body Imbalance Chiropractic or book a consultation at bodyimbalancechiropractic.com. And for daily insights, follow me on Instagram at Body Imbalance Wellness Center. Until next time, breathe deep, listen in, and know this: your anxiety is not your identity. Thanks again for joining me today on Healing Beyond the Symptoms. If you've been curious about Network Spinal, or if you've tried everything else and still feel stuck, I want you to know this: your body is not broken, it's patterned, and those patterns can change. If you're ready to experience how gentle care can lead to profound transformation, I'd love to invite you to book a wellness consultation at bodyimbalancechiropractic.com. Together, we'll look at what your body needs to finally release, reset, and thrive. Until next time, breathe deep, trust your body, and remember, gentle can be powerful.